Welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show with me, Sarah. I thought it'd be really fun to do a new episode about how I ended up here with literally I can look at the ocean from my window from being in a government type position in Toronto, Canada. So it's been 8 years since I was working in a 9 to 5, which is just so crazy for me. But I know that a lot of you have asked me, like, how did you do it? Like, where did you start? Where did this go? I've talked about this story before, but it's mainly been from a place of going from Toronto and moving to Nicaragua. And I have now, for the past 2.5 years, I've been living right beside the beach here as well. And so that was a really amazing transition. And I want to talk about all of that. I want to talk even about why I didn't do that transition right in the beginning, right when we first moved down here, and what probably a few of the things that I would do differently too. So kind of let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back to living in Toronto, 2016, 2017, maybe let's go all the way back into 2015. And I was working in a government funded agency. I really did enjoy my work. It was really funny because when I went to a whole bunch of like entrepreneurial events to promote my coaching business, I would get a lot of people very, very interested in the work that I was doing in my regular job. And it's because it was very fascinating work. I was working with people all over the world. I was providing language support. I was providing essentially almost social work type services. That's an area that I'm trained in. And interestingly enough, it's not that different from coaching, but that's kind of the area that I was in. And it was beautiful work. It was also very frustrating work. I had a lot of red tape around everything that I did. And so if you are the type of person who's in healthcare, or who is in social work or is in some sort of helping industry, and you have a whole bunch of red tape around everything that you can and cannot do for your clients and your patients, I get it, because I was also in that place for a very long time. And a lot of the times it would be really frustrating for me because I knew what was going to help my clients, and I couldn't do it for them because I wasn't allowed to. Versus now having my own podcast and having my own business, I can genuinely do the work that I really want to do because I'm the one who calls the shots. And so I love that. And if you've ever wanted to do that, it's hands down one of the most fulfilling things that you can do in your life. So going back into that place in time, I was just starting to understand online business. I thought that I wanted to be a worldwide traveling yoga teacher. I loved teaching yoga. I was teaching yoga three classes every single week. I was doing workshops, and I also had some private clients, and I just thought that that's exactly what I wanted to do. I quickly realized that from doing a whole bunch of research within the online space, that session to session uh, clients just was not going to cut it in terms of making it a full-time gig. Doing teaching classes, and just the amount of time that you need to recuperate and recover from classes, and the amount of time that you need to travel from client to client, none of it would have made any sense. And so I'm really glad that I did all of that research, and I quickly realized that I needed to sell private packages. And what I did ultimately is I started to do lifestyle yoga and wellness coaching. So it was mainly lifestyle coaching around how to create a wellness environment for yourself, which surprisingly, I used to get a lot of people who would ask me, why aren't you doing yoga for weight loss? Or why aren't you doing yoga for beginners? Because, there's so many people in that market. But what I realized is the people in my market, the people who really wanted my services, were actually people who wanted more in-depth. So they wanted more of an in-depth yoga experience. And once I really niched down into that, that's when everything started to come together. I hired a few business coaches because I knew that if I wanted to go big, I needed to invest in the skill sets that I didn't currently have. And right around 2016, I thought moving to Nicaragua was going to be a 5-year goal. And it turned out that because of my business, we were able to move by the end of 2016. And that's kind of exactly what we did. Sorry, not 2016. We could move by the end of 2017. So, beginning of 2018, we were still living in our apartment in Toronto. And I remember those evenings so clearly because we were about to move. I remember I was freaking out, just not knowing if any of this was actually going to work. I remember I was obviously getting my own income through my business, and I knew that I could sustain myself. I knew that we could sustain ourselves, myself and my husband, but I just didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know if I could actually live in a foreign country for more than a few months at a time. And we had to literally sell everything that we owned. We ended up bringing, I think it was 6 boxes that we shipped over here, which is so funny to me because the boxes took around 6 months to get to us anyway. So by the time the boxes had come to us, we had forgotten about all of the things that were in those boxes. Then we also had 3 suitcases each because we couldn't leave anything behind. Like, looking back at it now, I cannot believe how much we had in our 1-bedroom apartment because we just kept on giving things away. We had a few friends in our building, and it felt like every single day for 2 weeks, we would just show up to their door with new things. We'd be like, "Hey, do you want a chair? Hey, do you want this crock pot? Do you want this thing to boil water?" Because we didn't know where to put them, and we knew that none of those things could go to the garbage. We ended up giving a lot of things away to Goodwill, which was also very nice, and it felt really good to be able to give a lot of those things to someone who could use them more than us. And then we shipped a few things. So by the time that we had to fly, our flight was, I think, at like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And the night before our flight, we were still trying to get rid of things. In fact, we didn't know what to do with it. Like, we had a massive amount of home objects that we still didn't know what we were going to do with. And our friends didn't want any more of our stuff. They were like, "We're good. We have all of these things ourselves." And so we ended up putting them in a shopping cart, and we had our superintendents take the shopping cart by the time that we were completely gone. We had to sell 2 cars. We had to sell our bikes because we had bicycles for living in Toronto, going and riding out the waterfront in the summers. I had so many winter clothes that I did not know what to do with at the time. And so there were just so many things that we had to give away. And so that night, we were trying to shove as much as we possibly could back into our suitcases. We had 2 suitcases each, and then we also had our backpacking backpacks. And we couldn't fit things inside anymore. And so we really had to start to understand what was going to come with us and what was going to stay. And what was so interesting about that whole thing is, I had a lot of anxiety about it. I was like, am I just throwing my whole life away? How long did it take me to acquire this life? How long did it take me to feel established in my 9 to 5? I was working there for 6.5 years. And I was just looking at all of these things, and I was like, wow, we really did create a life here. We really, really created a life here in Toronto for all of this time. And now we're literally just giving it all away. And for what? And so we ended up figuring all of that out. The very last thing that we needed to decide on was a pillow that my husband, Jorge, had got for, it was over $100 that he paid for this pillow. And I remember he paid for it at Sleep Country, Canada one day because he was complaining about his neck. And I looked at the pillow and I'm like, we can't bring this pillow. We don't have any room for it. He's like, I'm bringing the pillow. I'm going to bring this with me. And he ended up putting it in a pillow sham and attaching it onto his backpack. And I kid you not, we still have this pillow. It's been 8 years and we still have this pillow. So it was a very high quality pillow. It had like sentimental value to him. And that was basically the last thing that we decided that, okay, this is going to come with us. And the next morning, we went to the airport and we put all of our suitcases away. We brought our dog Mango with us as well. And we traveled to Costa Rica. We traveled to San Jose, and we had family pick us up from San Jose and drive us to Nicaragua. And I remember landing in Costa Rica and feeling like, wow, I did it. I escaped. I actually did it. Now, this is the start of a life that feels truly my own. And it really was. It really, really was. And I remember we went from a very, very cold, harsh winter in January of 2018 in Canada to what just felt like such a beautiful, beautiful, eternal summer in Nicaragua. And we started off living here in a house that my in-laws had restored for us, it was a very, very mild restoration. There were still a lot of different things that we needed inside of that house. We did not have hot water. We didn't have a kitchen. And we basically just had one bathroom, a bedroom with a twin bed. So we actually had to buy a bigger bed for ourselves. And we didn't have glass on our windows. It was actually, I felt like I was camping when we first moved there. And there were a lot of things that we needed to restore. And so we eventually, we ended up getting glass windows. We ended up redoing our floors. We ended up getting a new roof. We ended up getting hot water. We built a kitchen. And slowly we made that little home our own. And what I always tell people is that I built up my big business to multiple six figures in that house. I was working on a cracked floor. My floor was like it was cracked cement, and I didn't care. It didn't matter. It also didn't matter to my clients. I built my business up to multiple six figures in a house that had a broken roof and a cracked floor. So that is how much you actually need to get started. So much of it is in here. It's up in your brain that you need to invest in. It's not necessarily your surroundings, it's your skill sets, right? And after that house, I got pregnant and we knew that we needed our bigger house. We knew we wanted to finally build our dream home. This is something that we had been planning for so long. And so we ended up building another house and we moved into that house when Sebastian was 1. And it literally had everything that I had ever wanted in a home. It had these beautiful, really like large floor to ceiling windows. It had these like beautiful, almost like accordion type doors. It had this big, massive kitchen island. It had a 2-story living room. We had these like free floating stairs and a bedroom with a balcony and my own freestanding bathtub that was in my bedroom. And it was just beautiful. It was amazing. It was amazing to actually finally be able to also build something that I really wanted to build my dream home. And I thought that we were going to live there forever because it was my dream home and we built it right beside my in-laws. And so it was great because my son got to live right beside of his grandparents. And from there, once again, you can never, you don't really know what life is going to give you, but you just need to be along for the ride. And what we wanted to be forever actually turned out where at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, I took a look at that life and I was like, this is not what I want. And funnily enough, from there, we actually considered moving back to Canada. We considered moving back to Toronto. We were thinking of moving to Vancouver. We didn't really know exactly where we wanted to end up. And then we had some friends or new friends who came to where we were. Jorge met them and they told him, we're living out in a beach town in the south of the country. You should really come and visit us one day and bring your son. I think our kids would really like playing together. And so Jorge one day was like, well, why don't we go there? And like, I want to see these friends of mine. And we started talking about how his friends were actually from Toronto and their kids were going to an English language school here. I had no idea that even existed. And so we came down, we drove down. It was about a 5 or 6 hour drive to San Juan del Sur. And We met up with his friends. They told us all about their life here. And we saw the school, we saw the environment, we saw everything that was here. And we were like, well, what if instead of moving back to Canada, we move here first? Like, what if we just wait out the winter and we wait out the winter here and we see if we like it? And I remember at the time too, my friends were also telling me, moving back to Canada, I don't know if you're going to want to do that. They were living in the same life that I had left, and they had seen the life that I built for myself. And they were like, still feel like what you have is really, really special. So I don't know if you want to come back here. And I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know that life had changed a lot, especially in Canada, especially after COVID, after the pandemic. And when we came to the beach town, I remember us like kind of sitting down at a resort pool and just talking, and we're like, we could really see ourselves living here. And so we decided to come down here. We rented out a few houses for about 6 months. We were trying to decide where we wanted to live. And we were just thinking, let's just wait out the winter here. Within 2 months, we bought a house. Within 2 months of living here, we bought a house because we were like, we're not moving. We're not leaving. We're not going back to Canada. This is where we're going to stay. My husband fell in love with surfing. I have always loved the beach. And there's a huge health and wellness community here. It's just incredible. It's a small town. It has small town vibes. And I just fell in love with it here. And it's funny because even the exact room that I am podcasting to you from today is in the house that we bought. And so what we thought was just going to be a short-term experience ended up being something long-term. We now just can't see ourselves living here. Who knows if in a few years we're just going to say, okay, well, now it's the time to move again, like we're going to do something different with our lives once again. But right now, this is perfect, and it's perfect for this specific point in time in our lives. And I can literally see the ocean from my bedroom and from my podcasting room, which is just so incredible and such a blessing. And I really do feel like initially, I didn't even think that this was possible for me. I didn't think this was possible for me. I didn't think that this was possible for our family, which is why I didn't do it. I didn't even realize that they had schools here. I didn't realize that they had English language schools for our son to go to. And it's quite an incredible school that he goes to. And so my biggest advice for anyone who wants to do this is, it's going to feel terrifying when you do it. It's going to feel like you are making the biggest mistake of your life. And usually the things that are the most terrifying, but also secretly the most exciting, are the ones that are truly worthwhile for you. And I know this to be true because I have made so many investments in my business. I've hired so many coaches, and there's this exhilarating feeling when you're about to give someone money or when you're about to make an investment in yourself, in your business, in the life that you truly want to live. And there's so many different reasons why you shouldn't do that investment, right? My parents could think of 100 reasons why I shouldn't have moved here. But now that I've lived here for 8 years, they're like, you don't really need to go back. You're good here. And it's because I trusted my own intuition. I trusted where I was being led to. I trusted what I knew was going to be a really wild, exciting ride for me. And I didn't want to stay in mediocre anymore. And I definitely did not want to stay in a life that someone else had created for me that I didn't even choose for myself. And that's truly how I felt living and working in Toronto and feeling like on the outside that I had everything and that I had a life that looked so good on paper, but I knew that I wanted something different. I knew that I wanted more. And, from taking some risks, taking some big, big risks and chances and just doing the damn thing and writing up my termination letter and investing in business coaches and learning new skill sets, I did it. And here we are. And, we've purchased 4 homes since we've been here. And it's so incredible to not only see how free we can make our lives, but also through businesses, it's also really incredible how much we've been able to get ahead financially. And that's one of the biggest things for me is once you can do something on your own and like really step into your own creative processes, your income becomes infinite. Your time is finite, but your income is infinite. And so always, what I always say is I want to value time so much more than I value money, because money I can always make back, and you can make it back tenfold. You can 20x your income in a year if you wanted to, but you can never get back your time. And I didn't want to spend another 6 years at my 9 to 5 waiting for the right time, waiting for the time where it felt better on paper for me to move. I knew in that exact moment it needed to be that time, because I didn't know what other opportunities I was going to get. And I'm so glad that I took them. And so if you learn anything from this episode, it's to take those opportunities for yourself, because at the end of the day, I would rather know that I took the risks. Even if it didn't work out, I would much rather know that I took the risk than sitting in indecision, because indecision is not a place that a successful person wants to be. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Let me know how you liked it. Let me know if you even knew this part of my story. So many people who are new to my world don't know the full story. And so this is kind of the big recap of how everything came to be. If you want to connect with me, you can always find me on Instagram. It's at Sara without an H, JLOUREIRO. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.